finally.
Long ago, reports reached the Western world of a mysterious giant beast which roamed the forests of Borneo. Half human, half ape, they called it the man of the forest, or the orangutan. Today, this shy and gentle creature continues to intrigue us, though sometimes at a high price. This female is a caring mother. Over the next 4 years, she'll teach her infant everything it needs to know to survive in its forest home. Already at 6 months, it has the confidence to explore its leafy playground. But not all orangutans have such an idyllic childhood. Some are torn from their mother's arms to become victims of the pet trade. Others are made homeless as their forests disappear. The orangutan is only found in the forests of Borneo and Sumatra. Today, it is thought that less than 20,000 survive in the wild. But as their numbers dwindle, so their problems increase. In Borneo, the Sabah government has set up a sanctuary for orphaned apes at the edge of the Cephalak Forest Reserve. The rangers have heard a rumor of an orangutan being kept as a pet. Although it's illegal to own these rare apes, the law continues to be broken. The baby orang is less than a year old. He's far too young to have been separated from his real mother. But at least he's found some comfort from his surrogate family, who have named him Norin. He'll be confiscated and the woman fined. If she had been caught trading orangutans, she would have been imprisoned. It's Norin's similarity to a human baby and his trusting nature that make him especially attractive as a pet. The young ape's true history will never be known. But in his brief life, he's already experienced the traumas of separation, bereavement, and loneliness. On the black market, he could have fetched up to $10,000. But now, he's being taken to the Cephalak Rehabilitation Center, where humans will try to teach him how to survive in the forest. It will be a long process, but hopefully Norin will one day return to his natural home. First, he must endure more alien surroundings. All incoming animals must stay in quarantine for 6 months. as they may carry human illnesses that can infect the other orangutans. Dr. Rika Akamutsu, Sepalak's chief veterinarian, has been called in to see the new arrival. The care of orphaned orangutans is a highly specialized job. Over the coming months, Dr. Rika will carefully monitor Norin to make sure he's not suffering from diseases like tuberculosis and polio.
Oke, masuk. Oke.
Over 25 orphans like Norin have arrived at the rehabilitation center in the last year. In an ideal world, there should be no need for sanctuaries like Sepalak. But without them, these babies would never survive. Five orangutans have been given a clean bill of health and released from quarantine. Though not the most comfortable of rides, the passengers seem quite content. They're on their way to a kind of kindergarten and the beginning of their journey back to the forest. A special climbing area has been constructed for the babies. This is young Ramilly's first visit to the climbing area. Like a child, he needs constant encouragement. In the wild, Ramillies would have learned everything from his mother. Now, it is the center's responsibility to teach him how to survive. Without such devoted care, some of these orphans might never learn what should be their second nature. With time, Ramillies will hopefully gain his confidence and learn to climb like this youngster. Indira is now master of the ropeways. Along with her companion, Cicely, the two orangs are reckless climbers. They've outgrown the kindergarten, and Dr. Rika and her assistant, James, decide it's time that they move on. For the first time since they were parted from their mothers, Cicely and Indira will soon be returned to their forest home. Close to the Sepalak Center, Over 15 orphaned orangutans are living in an area called Station A. A halfway house between man's civilized world and the wild. The animals here slowly readjust to life in the forest. For Cicely and Indira, their big day has come. It's a daunting step from climbing ropes to real forest. Overwhelmed by the sights and sounds of their new home, they cling to each other for comfort.
Bon, jangan gigit, Bon.
It may take the orphans months to readjust to life at Station A, but eventually, when they are confident, they'll be left here on their own. Now, Cicely and Indira are on their way to the feeding platform, some 40 feet high. Here, meals are provided twice a day. It's a slow process, weaning the babies from their dependency on the center, but over the coming years, they'll be gently encouraged to fend for themselves. For their first visit, Cicely and Indira have coped extremely well. It's been a long day, and James will soon take them back to the center. As evening approaches, the extraordinary sound of giant cicadas fills the air. The full-time residents have learned to build sleeping nests. Safe in their high-rise hammocks, they'll settle down for the night. Morning brings the unexpected arrival of Sepalak's most famous orphan to Station A. Simbo was one of the first orangutans the center ever returned to the wild. He went back to the forest over 20 years ago. His strange cheek pads are a sign of his adulthood. About twice a year, Simbo comes back to the scene of his childhood. Now, he lives a solitary life in the Sepalak Reserve and avoids all contact with humans.
Betul tidak? Dia suka makan daun, apa lagi? Buah-buahan. Kulit kayu.
Educating the people of Borneo to the plight of the orangutan is one of the center's priorities.
Monyet ada ekor kan? Orang hutan ada ekor tak? Ah, itulah sebab dia dipanggil. Dia ada ekor tak?
For many of these children, it is the first time they've ever been into a rainforest.
Kalau tidak ada orang, tiada ekor lah, boleh jadi orang hutan lah kan? Okay.
To become independent of man can be difficult, especially with such a captivated audience.
Ini antara 2 dan 3 tahun.
There's concern that close contact between the orangutans and too many visitors at Station A may actually delay their rehabilitation to the wild. Tourists are only permitted here at feeding times, twice a day. It's a controversial issue as more and more people visit the center each year. Milk and bananas are on the menu today, as they are every day. It's deliberately monotonous food to encourage the orangs to forage for themselves. Only when they start to show their independence will they be moved to Station B, the final stage in their reintroduction to the wild and a life of freedom in the Sepalak Reserve. Sepalak has received another victim of man's cruelty. This time, a young male about 9 years old. Captured by plantation workers because he was damaging their crops, he's been brutally treated. Increasingly, orangutans are being forced to find food in cropland as their forest home dwindles in size. The wounded animal is taken to Dr. Rika for emergency surgery. First, an anesthetic is administered. It's upsetting for the staff. Despite their hard work to prevent events like this from happening, a steady flow of victims continue to arrive at Sepalak. This injury is thought to have been inflicted by a whip. An hour later, the operation is virtually over. An orangutan's lip is vital for feeding. Without the center's intervention, this young male would have starved to death. He'll stay in the recovery cage until the anesthetic wears off. Once his injuries have healed, he'll be released to a new home deep in the heart of the Sepalak forest. At Station A, a 6-year-old male called BJ is ready to be moved onto the final stage of his rehabilitation. First, James must catch him. His reluctance to be caught is a reassuring sign of his growing independence. BJ has lived at the center nearly all his life. Now, on a 2-mile trek with James to Station B, he faces the final challenge, to survive on his own. It's a testing time for both ranger and orangutan, and for the very success of the rehabilitation process. There's another feeding platform at Station B. To ease the transition to a life without man, food is still provided here once a day. This female returned to the forest 2 years ago. She now has a baby, perhaps fathered by a wild male. Though semi-wild now, she knows where to supplement her diet. And with her arrival, suddenly BJ's off. He now has all the credentials to go it alone. In the 27 years since Sepalak was established, over 100 orphans have been returned to the wild. Rehabilitation centers are not the solution to the conservation of the orangutan. They merely repay a debt to these endangered animals. Since this program was made, the confiscated baby Norin is doing well in the kindergarten. Cicely and Indira are now spending all day in Station A. The wild orangutan's lip healed well, and he was successfully released to the Sepalak Reserve. BJ hasn't been seen, and it's thought he's now living happily in the forests of his native Borneo.